Hello, good evening, and how are you? Welcome to another session of Ask the Doctors, a live program that holds every Sunday by 8 p.m. West African time. My name is Frederick Unubohai. You can call me Dr. Fredo Star, and I always tell you good life, na sense. Today again, we are live on Facebook and we are live on YouTube. So if you can hear me wherever you're watching me from, just do me a favor, tell me where are you watching me from. I can see we have some people already online. So if you can hear me, hello, how are you? Tell me, where are you joining me from? Let's go. We have some people joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about first aid. Very important. Yeah, let's go. Hello. Tell me, where are you joining me from? I'm live on Facebook and I'm live on YouTube. On Facebook, we are live on Dr. Fredo Star Official and we are live on Dr. Fredo Star. I can see you, Chukwuemeka Amechi. I see you. I can see we have somebody here again. We have Chinyenye Ejike. I'm watching from Lagos. Ayo is in the house. Ayo, how are you? Yes, welcome. Yeah, good evening from Oyo State on YouTube. Yes, those on YouTube, drop comment. Let me give you all a shout out. Those on YouTube. Collins, Igbinedion, Collins, I see you. You shall know how to keep to time. What to do? I think time is my greatest asset. I don't joke with time at all. Watching from where? Watching from Plateau State. That's just okay. We have Dr. Israel in the house. Oluwatosin, Dr. Israel is there. Dr. Israel, how you day? Well,
Fine, good evening.
good evening. How
How
are you?
today?
Very well, welcome. Destiny on YouTube. Destiny, welcome. Um Collins from Edo State. Oluchi from Ebonyi. How is Ebonyi, Oluchi? Okay, everybody, let's share the live stream. Let's share. Keep sharing. Invite your friends. Like this live stream, and don't forget to send stars. So today we're talking about first aid, and we have our co-host in the house today, Dr. Israel. So Israel, what's going on now? How things in general? Dr. Israel. Dr. Israel, what's happening again to your network? Dr. Israel, what's happening to your network? Fix your network and then join again. Oluchi, okay, I see you. Ayo, welcome. So everybody tell me in the comment section, what do you understand by the word first aid? What do you know or what do you understand by the word called first aid? Drop in the comment section. We're talking about first aid today. So we're not going to take any comment that is not related to this topic. If you ask us anything that is not related to first aid, we're not going to take your comments tonight. Is that okay? Very good. And I see that people are just looking at us. You people are not even sharing the live. Why now? Okay, those on Dr. Fredo Star, 19 people. We could not. Hey God, they share this live stream at all. Why? Oh yeah, let's go. Tell me, what do you understand by the word first aid? Victoria, I see you. Only one person. I don't share. One, just one person. Abosede. Abosede says medical attention that is administered immediately. Okay. Immediately after injury. Hmm. Abosede. Abosede says medical attention that is administered. Okay. Who else again is going to tell us? 58 people. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know you're just coming, you are welcome. I can see you, Florence. Florence, good evening. How are you? Happy Sunday. We are making us share the live now. You can just be looking at us. You're not sharing, you're not liking, you're not commenting. Why? Why? No make sense. Okay, so tell me in the comment section, guys. Let's interact. This whole forming way not the form. I don't understand. What do you understand by the word first aid? Yes, there's a comment here. Based on what I was taught in primary school, based on what I was taught in primary school, first aid is the first treatment given to an injured person before seeking the attention of a medical practitioner. The first treatment given, I like that word, to an injured person before medical. Please don't ask me any question that is not related to this topic today. I'm not going to answer any comment that is not related to our topic today. Today, we are talking about first aid. If you cannot respond to first aid, Collins on YouTube. Collins says it is the help given to a sick or injured person until full medical treatment is available. An expert in emergency first aid. Okay, I like this. The rest people looking at me, waiting they happen. And I don't want to talk. Haven't you heard of first aid before? Okay, this word emergency, emergency. There's an emergency at home or at work. King Luther King Luther says first aid is a treatment given by first responders to accidents or sick victims before a more qualified personnel takes over. Dr. Israel, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Very good. So you went on break. Welcome back. Before you joined us again, we're talking about first aid. I was taking comments from the people and I asked them, what do they understand by the word first aid? People said it's the first treatment given until a full medical treatment is available, until an expert is available, before more qualified personnel is in the house. This person says, Oluchi says, is the first medical care given to a patient before taking him to the hospital. Okay, so you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, good. So let's start, please. Take over, please.
Okay,
Let's talk about
I
first
think
aid. Yeah.
I think we'll take that definition. All the definition they said is actually correct. The first treatment or the first care you give to someone before you take the person to the hospital or before the arrival of a more qualified medical personnel, they are all correct. They're actually correct. It simply means that the person that can give first aid is someone that has at least a little knowledge about that. That's the basic knowledge about the medical training. And any individual, it doesn't mean that it must be a doctor. It doesn't mean that it must be a nurse or a paramedics. No. So anybody can actually give first aid. However, even though we say everybody can give first aid, but there are some basic training the person should know or should get before you can actually say you can give first aid. Because there are different types of first aids that can be given. There are different kind of first aids that can be given. There are some that I know. Let me say one thing, which I know we know is not really a right practice, but to some people it's like a form of first aid. You know, when somebody is having when a child is having convulsion and they went to put spoon inside the mouth so that so those people, they believe that that's first aid. And that's why when I said who can give first aid, I said everybody can, but they should have at least a basic knowledge of medical activities, a basic knowledge. Yeah, they should know that when this happen, this is what I should do. When this happen, this is what I should do. Yeah, that's just the basic things they need to know about first aid.
Thank you, Dr. Israel. For those that are just coming, you're welcome. We are talking first aid tonight. And like Dr. Israel has said, the basic, the first care you give, you must at least have a knowledge. It's not just enough to assume you know, because in a bid to help somebody, you actually worsen the problem. Now, sometimes people have lost their lives because there was no first aid given to them. I've seen cases where somebody had an emergency at home. Rather than applying first aid, they just took the person and started running to the hospital. Before they got to the hospital, and the person died. And Dr. Israel said again, very important, that anybody can give first aid. You don't have to be a doctor, a nurse, a paramedic. There are basic things that we can do at home. So let's go further now. Like Dr. Israel said, there are different types of first aid. Dr. Israel, let's just help them understand the different types of first aid so that we will not limit this discussion to the one that they can attend to, because there's first aid in the water when someone is drowning. There are first aid you can carry out. There's a first aid you can carry when somebody is bleeding. There's a gunshot first aid. There's a first aid in the road traffic accident. So let's just briefly break it down for everyone. What are those different types of first aid that we need to
Okay.
know?
And we also have the battlefield first aid for some people that have gunshot injury. When we talk about battlefield, you know what that means in war situation and all that.
We are having issues again with your network. Now, who you offend, Dr. Israel? Who you offend where they seize your network? Ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me and you have not shared this live stream, please, I beg you, share, please share the live stream. Very important, I beg you. So that we're not just talking and I'm talking to myself alone and just looking at me. Let's get more people here. And then tell me again, have you done first aid before? Very important question. Have you given somebody first aid at home? Yes or no? If you have, which one did you do? Did you do well or you did poorly? Or your job is to just shout, blood of Jesus, blood of Jesus. Hey, Egbamio, Egbamio. No, tell me. At home, everybody listening to me right now. Have you engaged in first aid activities before? If yes, which one? How was it? Or your job is to just shout and begin to you get. So tell me again in the comment section. Yeah. Let's see. Yes. Somebody says yes. Okay. Dr. Israel, are you here? Oh, you're here. Oh, Dr. Israel, your network again. Who you offend, Dr. Israel? Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, talk to me. Which first aid have you given at home? Oh yeah, now the way una they look me. Let's see how many people are watching us. We have 11 people watching us here. Let's see. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh. Which first aid have you given at home? Abi, you just they look me. The reason why 37 people watching me on this other channel, but now only 6 people don't share the live. On Dr. Fredo Star, we have 37 people watching. 37. Dr. Fredo Star, 37. But only 6 of them don't share. I don't know if I can see the 6 people that have shared this live. I don't know if I can see the 6 people. The rest of us just looking at me. Okay. Back thrusts after choking. Oh, very, very good. For parents, parents listening to me right now, we have babies. When they take groundnuts, they take peanuts, they can choke, right? Tell me, which first aid have you given at home? Oh yeah, now, Dr. Israel, are you back? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I don't know why the network is always misbehaving.
Sorry.
Okay. And yeah, as I was saying,
Yeah.
the types. Are we still there? Yeah, the types. We have what we call the aquatic first aid. That's the one that is done in people that is working with water and all that. Yeah, we have the battlefield. I said that before. We have the oxygen first aid. We have the mental health first aid, and in case of mental health, we also have the okay. I think that's all I can remember for now. There's also one conflict first aid. When there's a conflict, yes, the first aid that should be given during that time, just like the okay, even when there's disaster and all that, there's also first aid that can be given during those periods. Then we also have the one that is we can do at home. We have the one that we can do at home. Now you should know that almost all first aid has a particular method that is used to do them. We have a particular method. We call them like the technique to carry out the first aid. We call them the A, B, C, and D. And this A, B, C, and D is a way to know what you should do at each time you see a person that needs any treatment. Now, before we talk about the method, let's just a bit dive into the importance of first aid. What is the importance of first aid? Why should we carry out first aid? One of the importance is that it preserves life. Yeah, if the right first aid is given to a patient, you will likely have prevent death for that patient. So someone that is dying and you're able to give the right first aid, you would have preserved the person's life. So another thing is that it also preserves prolonged injury for a patient or for a client. So those are two importance of first aid. Now, one, it preserve life, also reduce prolonged injury for an individual. However, this must be first aid that must be given must be the right type of first aid. Yeah, that's why we said even before you can perform first aid, you should have a basic knowledge. You should have a basic knowledge. Now, let me dive into another angle. When we talk about CPRO, CPRO is part of first aid. That is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's part of first aid for when you see someone having cardiac arrest. Yes, you want to give CPRO. If someone don't know how to perform CPRO, you may even be killing the person instead of helping the person. And also, it's not everybody you also give CPRO. If you don't know the kind of person to give CPRO, and you've gone ahead to give somebody that you're not somebody that have injury to the lungs or fracture to the rib, you go ahead to give CPRO, you just end up killing that patient. So that's why it's better you have a firm knowledge, a basic knowledge of first aid. Yeah, the basic knowledge of medical activities that will be able to give that. Now, and then let's go back to the method. I said you have the ABC, and D, where the A stand for airway, B is for breathing, C is for circulation, and D is for disability. So when there's any disability, like when we talk about disability, we're talking about someone that is having injury and can be bleeding, can be fracture. So those are the disability. Yeah, injury. There's little things you can do to help the life of that person. Now you should also know that first aid can be just the only treatment to give to a patient. Now, if someone with a minor cut, it's just for you to apply plaster to that cut, pressure and plaster to that cut. And I think that's all you need to do for that patient. You don't need to take the patient to the hospital again when you are able to do that. So, but for other disability, when there is enough bleeding, you should know what to do to compress that bleeding. And if there is fracture, you should also know how to arrange the bones so that you will not cause more damage to the bones. So that is it. Now, for the airway, you want to make sure that you clear the airway to make sure that the person is breathing well. And how do you know that the airway is clear or the airway is not clear? For someone that have a clear airway, when you call the person, the person responds to you with his normal voice. There's no change in voice. There's no change in voice and all that. So when the person is able to respond to you clearly, you know that okay, this person's airway is actually clear. But if the person is having difficulty responding to you or is having change in his voice or it does not even respond to you at all, then you should be you should be thinking that there may be problem with the airway. So you now know that you just have to clear the airway. Now, to be a first aider, you should also know that you should learn to always call for help. You should always learn to call for help. So as you're giving your first aid activity, doing your first aid activity, the next thing you do, mostly when you notice that this injury is not what we'll just do at this point and we are done with it. The next thing, before you even start, the other thing you do, you call for help. You have put a call to who you know can help you at that point in time. If it's someone that have a car or an ambulance and all that, you put a call to the hospital and all that, so that you get that person the best treatment. So as you try to preserve the life, you just have to complete what you've started. Yeah, Dr. Fred, you can lead me in again. I think I think I've exhausted what is in my head for now. Dr. Fred.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Israel. You're so on point. Let's get something very clear, guys. We are not having this. This is not like a. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think you can hear me, right? Good. So this is not a medical class, and we are actually having a basic um, discussion here because I can see that people say E for exposure. You are very correct. E for exposure, E for environment. You're right. You're very very clear. But like what Dr. Israel said, we're just having this basic. Imagine I asked a question before. Very few people answered. How many of us have done first aid? Very few people have answered. Only one or two. If you have done first aid at home, which first aid? There are different types of first aid that can be done at home. We have fire burn, we have loss of consciousness, we have bleeding. So if you want to get involved in an emergency, first of all, you should call for help. Like the soldier said, call for help is basic. Basic. Number two is that if that environment is not safe for you, you can't carry out any first aid. So this whole stuff that people say want to form hero, you just can't really perform any first aid if that environment is not safe. So one thing we know we what is this: if you want to carry out any first aid for somebody, you have to be sure that you that wants to carry out the first aid, you are safe. Example: let's say somebody is at home and the person gets electrocuted, electric shock, and you are not aware. You see that the person is on the floor unconscious, and you just run immediately to touch that person, my dear, the same electric that took that person would also what? Would also take who? Let's not use the word. So it's important you call for help, ensure the environment is safe, the airway is clear. If the person is not breathing, you know air is not going in, it can cause problem. You check around, you check bleeding, you check the pulse. How many of us even know how to check pulse of people? These are important stuffs. Then disability exposure, leave the exposure in the environment so that we don't confuse people for the medical professionals in the house. Now, quickly, let's talk about so um, okay, somebody says so a pregnant woman, she came that she want to go and ease herself. On the way, she cannot move forward, and the head of the baby was out. Wow. So she delivered at home. That's interesting. Dr. Israel, can you hear me? Yeah, I like this. I have done first aid by helping to arrest bleeding with bandages. Okay, good. So let me tell you a story. So one day I was at work.
Yes, I
Some
can hear
years
you.
Okay, I was at work some years ago, and then I heard emergency, emergency. People were shouting. So I came out, I saw that they brought in a little girl, and there was blood all over this little girl's body, blood all over her. So when I saw that amount of blood, I ran quickly. We mobilized. We started cleaning to look for where this bleeding was coming from. And after they cleaned, so that we can actually stop the bleeding, this bleeding was coming out from just one little point on her head. Just one little point on her head. And where these people came from was very far. And then I asked them, and I asked the parents that brought this little girl and everybody, please, for God's sake, why couldn't anybody, why couldn't anybody apply pressure, even if you had nothing at home? Why couldn't somebody put the thumb or the finger over that point? Why did you allow this little girl lose so much amount of blood? So people most times when they see blood, they begin to panic and they believe the next thing is hospital. The first advice we always give to people is that, can you hear me? Okay, so you can't hear me. The first advice we always give to people is that whenever you see bleeding, most especially bleeding along the extremities, the hand, the legs, maybe the head, try to stop it. Apply pressure. Apply that pressure because that little girl could have lost all the blood. She would have bled and became unconscious. Thank God she didn't die. She was stabilized. So it's important. Number two, another very important question I want to ask us again this night is how many of us have first aid box at home? How many of us have first aid box at home? You have ATM card, you have fuel at home, you have data on your phone, you have airtime to make call. But how many of us um, have first aid at home? So there's a comment here. Let's take this comment. I heard the cry of a newborn baby and it was coming from my neighbor's doorstep. I came out from my room only to see the woman on her knees and the baby is already out. I was scared. I couldn't bear what I saw. I started shouting for help. Very good. Nice. Thank God you shouted for help. Until women from the neighborhood came and surrounded the woman, brought out their wrappers and started doing the needful. I was frightened because I have never experienced that in my life. Thank God you were able to call for help. One very thing we tell people, one very important thing we tell people is that always call for help. Abraham says, yes, I have. Always call for help. There is no glory in trying to form a superman. Even in the medical space, doctors, nurses do call for help. So if you are at home and you notice emergency, call for help. And after calling for help, start something. So notice if this person is conscious, like Dr. Israel has said, call the person. This is why I asked a question. Dr. Israel, can you hear me? Dr. Israel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This is why I asked the question. How many of us here have first aid box at home? How many of us do have first aid box at home? Because let's talk briefly about some common um, emergencies at home. So we'll talk about bleeding. Am I back? Okay, I think I'm back. Yes,
Dr. Fred, are you there?
my dear, I'm back. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, something happened to the network. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so yes, how many of us
Never.
have first aid box? Somebody says I have in my car and first aid kit in my house. Because if you don't have first aid box at home, then you might not really have what you need to help somebody. Okay, Israel, over to you. So the next thing I'm asking everybody is, how many of us have first aid box at home, and what are those things we need to have in our first aid box or our first aid kits? Quickly, let's discuss.
Okay. Um, our first aid kit, it should be maybe a box, a solid box, or a bag that cannot be easily spoiled. And also, you know that different occasion determine your kind of kit that will be in your first aid box. So there's no, in quotes, there's no a specific amount of things or specific things that should be in your first aid box. So it depends on your environment, it depends on your working space, it depends on the type of first aid you are into. And that's the kind of, before you know the kind of things that should be in your box. However, there are some few things. Let me just mention some few things that relatively be in the first aid box. One is your user handout should be in the box, and so you know how to. And there are handouts about first aid, so you can at least read some things about first aid. You should have a sterile bandage, a triangular bandage, 1 medium sterile bandage, one large sterile bandage, triangular bandage should be there. You should have a hand glove. You should have spirit, methylated spirit. You should have um, what's this thing called? Okay, you should have cottonwood should be there. Some first aid box should have some simple drugs like paracetamol. Should also be there. Now you should have a pair of scissors, surgical scissors can be there. Plaster should be there.
Dr. Israel.
Are we together? Are you still hearing me?
Okay, yeah, you are back. You are back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. As I earlier said, paracetamol should be there. Sterile gauze, triangular bandage should be there. Medium-sized sterile bandage and all that should be there. You should also have a surgical scissors and faucet should be there as well. Then you should have plaster. Those are some few things and that can be there. We also have a bond bandage. That's what is called bond bandage that you use when you have a bond case. And you should also have that in the first aid box. Now that handout I said or handbook I said should be inside the first aid box. That contain a lot of things about first aid that you can actually read when you see some cases and you get confused. You can actually read them so that you can actually know what to do immediately. So when you read those things over and over again, it become part of you. So you just know what to do. Yeah. Now there are some conditions where first aid can be done. Physical conditions where first aid can be done. We have anaphylactic issues, like when we talk anaphylactic.
Dr. Israel, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Fix the network and then come back again. So I can see many comments here talking about I have the first aid box. Very few people say they have first aid box. The rest of us, they are looking at us. Dr. Israel, are you back? See, they're looking at us. They don't have first aid box. So you should have your cotton wool, your bandage, your sterile gauze, your scissors, your alcohol swabs. Alcohol swipe means the things that you use to clean the surface of a wound, or you have your methylated spirits, you can have your plaster. In certain cases, you can have your paracetamol, you can have you can even have antihistamines in some cases, especially if you have a little knowledge about these things. These are very, very important. And then sterile gauze, sterile material in case you want to secure bleeding, tie a wound to stop bleeding, you can get that. And these are basic stuffs, basic things you should have in your first aid box. Now, there are common first aid that we can carry out at home. The first one is let's talk about burn. So let's say you are at home and a child or an adult gets fire burn or hot water burn. What can you do for this fellow? These are basic things. We're not saying you treat at home. We are not saying There's this thing I've heard right now on social media. Everybody is looking for the alternative at home. What can I do at home? I don't want to go to the hospital. We are not saying this is what you should do to treat the person. This is what you do immediately to help that person before the person goes to the hospital. We are not saying you should now take over the treatment of this fellow at home. No, we never said that, because if not, people will say, yes, so this is what I need to treat. You can't treat fire burns at home. You can't even treat bleeding unless it's a very minor cut. If it's a severe bleeding, you tie that spot or that region and take the fellow to the hospital. Is that okay? Okay, Israel, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. And that's why there is not every case that you do first aid. Somebody that has malaria, the body is hot, it's not convulsing, nothing is wrong with the person. You take the person to the hospital. Hypertensive patient is not going to die at that point. First aid is given to in cases when, because the patient is within a severe condition that can lead to the death of that person, or condition that something need to be done immediately at first. So when I was talking about anaphylaxis, we're talking about allergic reactions. And some people are allergic to some things, insect bite, peanuts and all that, so on and so many things. To the extent that if nothing is done, that person can actually die. And so those kind of persons, first aid can be given to them. We have bone fracture, bones patient, cardiac arrest. In cardiac arrest, that's where we do our CPR, and you also that's where we do our CPR and all that. Choking. When we talk about choking, somebody swallowed a child, something entered. Okay, let me give you people one scenario about choking. When you try to eat, when you are eating, and later you start coughing and something come out from your nose, and they will say the thing entered the wrong pipe. That's a form of choking. And for children, sometimes when you give them grain, that's why they said for children less than for young children, you don't give them this grain. Most of them, you don't give them grain to eat so that they will not choke themselves. So choking is also something that you need to know some maneuvers to help the individual. We have hyperglycemia, somebody with high sugar, hypoglycemia, hypoglycemia, the person that you just see the person, you just faint, and you should know what to do. Heavy bleeding, and we should also know what to do. We have these are some few ones. Dislocations and seizures. When we talk about seizures, we are talking about convulsion. You also need to know one or two things that can be done. Even somebody that take in poison, there are still some things you can do for that person at home before the person goes to the hospital. Electric shock, you can still do one or two things before you take the person before the person goes to the hospital. When we talk about wounds, somebody that have laceration, that is a severe cut, incision, abrasions. So there are still some things you can do to help the patient. Note, these are not that you are treating the patient. You are not treating the patient. You are only trying to preserve the life of that patient. You are preserving the life. You are just trying to extend. Let me use the word extend now. You are only trying to extend the person's life so that the person will not die before an expert come to take over. And also, you are also trying to make sure that the condition of that patient does not worsen. And those are the reason why first aid is being carried out.
Thank you, Dr. Israel. Okay, so randomly
Okay,
right now, look, there's a comment here. It says, to my little understanding, I don't know if I'm right, Sha, but immediately I get hot water burn, I look for salt to rub over the surface. Is this also part of first aid? No, rubbing salt over burn is not first aid. Basically, the first thing you can even do for burn like that is to put that hand under running water first. To put that hand under running water, under cold water. That is the first aid, first treatment, first care given to that burn. It's not
that's the
salt.
first aid.
That is the first, see the name, the first care, first aid, first support, first treatment you give to that burn is actually cold water over the burn area, not salt, not egg. No, these stuffs are what we invented on our own. I don't know where it came from. People begin to put so, like Dr. Israel said, in convulsion. You know that when somebody is having seizure, a child is having convulsion, people begin to shout, and then they say, "Put spoon in the mouth, put the leg in fire." They will say, "Rub onion in the eyes." These are not first aid. These are not first aid in any form. Actually, they can even cause more problems for the child. The basic first aid for a convulsing child is number one, do not panic. Number two, ensure that the child is not um, having convulsion in a dangerous environment. So clear that environment for the child. If the child is wearing any tight stuff, you can loosen it. Position the child right. The child is having convulsion. The child will not die. The child will not die because the child begin to close the teeth. They say if he close the teeth, the child will die. No, the child will not die. After a while, the seizure will stop. But we advise parents that if you notice the child is convulsing, keep convulsing 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, is not stopping. You can take the child to the hospital immediately. You shouldn't get to 5 minutes though. But when the child convulses within 30 seconds to 1 minute, before even 1 minute, it stops. So those idea where they say pour urine inside the mouth or the eyes, it wouldn't help. You're going to worsen problems for the child. Which other emergencies again do we have at home? Choking, yes. I think these are things that you need to learn to handle choking. Let's say a child takes in um, granules and it goes into the airway. What can you do? Is what we call is it the helmet maneuver. So you put the child in your front, you take your hand under the belly. If the child is a grown-up child, but if it's a baby, a little baby, you turn the child upside down and then you smack the back of the child. If it's an adult or a grown-up, you go to the back and then you apply force. So you hold your hand like this, you hold your hand, and then you apply force to bring it out of the airway. These are very basic stuff that you can do. It's not shouting and calling for help. Yes, you have called for help, but you have to do something for that individual. If not, there might be loss of life. And then
Now for that,
finally, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
sorry, for that choking, let me just say this. For that choking, there are two things that there are two ways when a child or when someone is choking. It's not all the time you want to do that particular maneuver Dr. Freud was explaining. Now, if the person is coughing, you may not want to do the maneuver because the body is already trying to remove whatever it is. So you just have to give it a gentle tap at the back to see if the stuff goes. However, if the choking is like the person cannot breathe and he cannot cough, that is when you do the maneuver. Yeah, continue.
Thank you. If you have comments on this topic, you have questions, please drop in the comment section. If you are just coming, we're talking about first aid. Share this live. Number one, share. Number two, like. Number three, very important, we don't give numbers on social media. So in case you're trying to ask for numbers, I'm sorry, we're just going to attend to you here. The next thing again I want to talk about is regarding CPR. No, let me not go to CPR yet. Accidents, road traffic accidents. I have seen cases where people were involved in accidents, and the next thing we saw is that they just carried the person, they hold the hand, they hold the leg, and they begin to run to the hospital. That action alone can kill that person. So let's say somebody is involved in a road traffic accident, person is unconscious. What we see is that people just take that person like that. They carry the hand, they carry the leg, the head is hanging, the head is dangling, and then they are running, trying to save the life, in quotes, trying to do something good for that fellow, but at the same time, they are worsening the problem. So what we tell people to do is this: in this kind of a setting, you have a road traffic accident, the environment is safe, there is no other risk of getting involved in a road traffic accident. Take the person away from the road, call for help if it's a car or an ambulance. Don't try to lift the person up. If you don't have any means like that, get a flat surface, a flat wood or something like that, to to put the person under and then try to keep that head. Don't let the head move. These things we are saying are a little complicated here to break it down for you. But please do not carry anybody involved in a road traffic accident like that and start running. You might actually cause a problem with the spine, and then you cause problem. The person might die. The final one I want to talk about is what I saw online. It happened in Lagos. I don't know if we are aware about the drowning that happened on Lagos Island, where some people were in the boat and then the boat capsized, and then they brought out some people. There was a young lady that drowned. So, in a bid to help her, they carried her upside down and then they were running. They carried the young man, carried the lady, held her leg while the head was down, and then he was running. When I saw that video, it's on social media, you can find it. I was ashamed and I was sad. I think the young lady died. She didn't make it. In such case, there is no way it is documented that you begin to carry the person and you run up and down. If you save that life of that young lady, your CPR immediately, if you can save the CPR, because most times the chest is already flooded. You understand? So the earlier you can allow that chest, the lungs to get in air, the quicker you see people, they begin to push at the chest to see if they can push in water because that lungs is flooded. But the young man turned her upside down, thinking that he's helping her to bring out the fluid. It will not bring out the fluid. She died. And then take this fellow to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. Drowning is a little bit complicated. It's not straightforward. Depends on so many factors: the temperature of the water, the amount of time the person stayed inside, and what you did immediately you're bringing the person out. We have so many people who have swimming pool at home. We encourage parents, if you have swimming pool at home, please, the best first aid you can give to yourself is to cover that pool. The second first aid is to ensure that everybody at home can swim. The next first aid is that you know what to do in cases of drowning. These are very, very important. I don't know if Dr. Israel has anything to add again to that.
No, I think you said it. When someone drown, it actually depends on the time the person stay, and it's really bad. It's really bad that most persons in Nigeria don't know how to do CPR, because CPR can save a lot of life. Most persons that died won't have died if people around that patient knows how to do CPR. I'm telling you, all those people you hear that they just they slum and die. Most of them won't have died. You'll just be surprised that a simple CPR would have given that person few hours for you to take that person to the hospital, so that the life will really be saved. That person's life will be saved. So just to know what to do at the right time.
And the person is asking us a question: how can people learn the first aid and CPR in Nigeria? Yeah, there are centers that organize training, so many centers that do this training. You pay for it, they give you a certificate. This is why we say that there are certain levels of first aid that must be done by someone who has knowledge. If you don't know how to do CPR, in a bid to do the CPR, you might actually be worsening the problem. You might destroy life. So watching watching CPR on YouTube and having a practical experience with CPR. So yes, you can learn CPR in Nigeria wherever you are located, whether you are located at the north, the south, east, or west. There are people who conduct this training, and I would encourage everybody to get trained. Whether you are a father, a mother, a pastor, imam, whatever, in school, in churches, people should know how to carry out this CPR. Very important. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to ask us your questions.
Also, apart
Ask.
from school, all those places, you can also learn your CPR online. And there are even some trainings that BTL, you can learn them online. They're all online.
The
And
truth
it's
is,
just that
okay, go ahead.
the only difference is that you may Okay, the only difference is that you may not have a first-hand um, hand-on, what do you call it? Hand-on practice, like you doing it, but you can actually watch them online, see the way they do it. If you watch continuously, you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to do it. You'll be able to know when and how to do it. Uh, YouTube, you just type CPR. They give you CPR for adults, CPR for children. They even tell you the reason why CPR is important and all that. You see it online on YouTube. And there are some courses you can learn online. You
Your network is acting up, Dr. Israel. Your network is acting up. Now, this is how it is. This is how it is. Dr. Israel, are you back? Can you hear me?
actually.
Can you hear me? Okay, Dr. Israel is still trying to fix his network. It's important that you watch YouTube, you read, very important. But if you go for the training, then you will understand something, that there's a difference between reading, watching, and having the practical experience. And nobody will give you a certificate without you doing that CPR. As a matter of fact, part of the training says that if you have not even done that CPR on its own, you should not even try to do the um, you should not try to do the CPR. Yes, watch your YouTube. Yes, read on Google, watch all the videos, fine. But a criteria for CPR is that you should have a first-hand experience, a first-hand knowledge, a practical experience. It's not, I have watched it, and then in real life it's different, because CPR will take energy from you. You need to know how to put the chin lifts, what we call the jaw thrust or chin lift. These are very practical experiences that you must know. Then you need to know how many chest compressions. You need to know the depths that you need to go, and then you need to know when to put in the breath and the rest. So these are important stuff that basically you can't just learn on YouTube. No matter how many videos you watch on YouTube, you will never ever know how to do CPR. We encourage you to watch the videos, but very importantly, you have to go for the practical experience. Just like Inoma, okay, Inoma is saying that too. Yes, you have to. Is that okay, everybody? Yeah, I have a certificate. Okay, that is true. Okay, someone says, yeah, that is true. I have a certificate. Okay, very good. Somebody is asking us, what is the full meaning of CPR? So somebody should write it. Okay, let me type it down for you. Cardiopulmonary, PUL, pulmonary resuscitation. Yeah, CPR means, see, here is it. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So the C is for cardio, the heart. P is pulmonary, the lungs. Resuscitation, resuscitate, to bring back to life. So it has to involve the lungs and the heart working together to pass in oxygen to the brain, taking blood to the brain. You understand? So you are pushing, giving the heart an artificial beat, because most times in CPR, for this kind of cases, the heart is not beating, the person is not breathing. So you want to help. That is what CPR means. Okay. Any comment again? Dr. Israel, are you here? Dr. Israel is not back. His network is still acting up. Oh yeah, ask us your question. No. Are you sharing this live stream, ladies and gentlemen? Are you sharing the live? You have to share. Oh yeah, please share, 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 share. Let's go. Oh yeah. Oh. Any more comments? Any more questions? Any more comments? Any more question? Any more? No more? Are we good? So have your first aid box at home. Have your first aid kits. Remember, call for help. Very important. When you see someone bleeding, the first thing to do is to try to stop the bleeding. not just run to the hospital. When you have a burn, the first aid for that burn is to do what? To apply cold water, running water over that place. Sometimes for up to 20 minutes, you apply burn. Let's see. Okay, Dr. Israel, are you back? Your network is
Hello,
just
Dr.
messing
Fred.
up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I was saying that I don't know if you heard me that no matter how much video some people watch on YouTube or people watch, you can never really know how to do CPR.
Yeah,
Hmm?
yeah.
Yeah, I have shared the live stream already. Thank you. Somebody's asking, in Nigeria, do they have defibrillator? Yes, they do, but very few, very few centers have defibrillators. Very few centers have defibrillators, which is quite poor. Imagine people don't know about CPR. How much more defibrillator? So let's start first. I would prefer that
Yeah,
people
it's
even
like
know
that.
how to do. I prefer that
Ca-
people know how to do CPR. Go ahead, Dr. Israel.
I say it's like that. Pulmonary resuscitation. And that's what I said. It's painful that most people don't even know how to do that. And that's like one of, if you can do that, if you know that, most persons we actually live. Defibrillator. Yes, even some big hospital in quotes don't have it. Don't have that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
painful. It's very painful. But what to do now? That's why it's Nigeria. We are hoping that very soon these things will be handy and related will be available at all times so that can actually save life. Hmm?
Okay. Somebody just come in. We spoke about this before. What are the items that are supposed to be in the first aid kits? We listed them before. I guess you are just coming. Tell me what? Tell me Cotan Deborah. These are depends, depends on a lot of stuff. Number one, your own knowledge about first aid. This will help you know what you have there. So your cotton wool, your sterile gauze, your bandage, triangle bandage, your crepe bandage, your methylated spirit or alcohol swipes, your plaster, your scissors. You can have paracetamol. You can have antihistamine in some cases. This depends on you, your knowledge, on what you do about first aid. Basically, these are the stuffs you can get in your first aid kits. Then, if you are medically inclined or you have knowledge, you have been trained, you can have other things there. In Germany, before someone go to driving school, you have to go for training in CPR. Yes, this is how it should be, my dear. But in this part of the world, we even have people who are drivers without driver's license. How much more CPR? These are people that value human life. I can bet and I can swear that 50% of the population in this part of the world don't know anything about CPR. They have no idea. The only thing we know is blood of Jesus. Nothing. But we are more religious than being practical. When you teach people something medical, the next thing is they begin to bring religion into it. And when there's an emergency, rather than doing something, you begin to shout, and God is looking at you. Do something. You can't do anything. God will not come down and help you. You have to do something. Somebody is bleeding. The bleeding will not stop if you don't put pressure there. So it's funny. God help us. Okay, let's take this one as we round up tonight. Dr. Israel, this question is here. In terms of
Yeah.
scorpion, in terms of scorpion sting or snake bites, people tend to tie wrapper or rag or something around the surface of the injury. Is it also part of first aid? You want to react to that? Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead. We're almost out of time.
Okay. Yeah, people normally do that. It's not like it's actually bad. The first, actually, I don't think it's supposed to be on the where the snake bit. No, it's above it, so that what they are just trying to do, what they are trying to do, is just to make sure that the poison does not actually circulate round to other parts and to other organs of the body. So it should be on above it. And another thing you can do as first aid is to try to see if there's a mark. Let me use the word mark in wherever the thing beats. Just try and see if there's a mark. If there is, you have a blade, try and cut that place and see if you can express. In that way, you are trying to express more of the whatever the snake would have deposited in the person. So when you are able to do that and without little time, you take the person to the hospital so that they can give every injection that should be given to the person so that
On this snake bite issue, so let me say something with regards to snake bites and the tying of the leg. There is something I know people do which is not acceptable, and that is they try to suck the venom. You are not advised to suck the venom out. When someone is bitten by a snake, you hear that they say suck the venom. You don't suck it in whatever form. I've heard a story of somebody who was bitten by a snake. Somebody else tried to suck out the venom. The person who sucked out the venom died, while the person who got the snake bite did not die. So don't suck out the venom. Limit movement of the limb. So we tell people to limit movement of that limb. Try to lie still, because the more you move, the more you hasten circulation of the venom. And then some people try to tie above that area, that leg, try to tie so that it will limit blood flow or spread the venom. But sometimes it might tie everything, the venom will still spread. So basically, this is what you need to do. Then take the person to the hospital as soon as possible. Then they can give the person what we call the antivenoms, the antidotes. And in some cases, they will tell you try to see if you can see the snake or you have an idea of the kind of snake that beats you, because we have different snakes and we have different venom. So we have the neurotoxic venom, we have the cardiotoxic venoms. We have the hemotoxic venoms too. So depending on the type of snake. So if you know this is the type of snake, most times the medical team will know the type of antivenom to use in quotes, though we have some venom that can cover for a large number of snake bites. But these are basically what you can do. You cannot really manage snake bites if you really got bitten by a venomous snake. Let's say you got bitten by a cobra or a black mamba or a viper. You can't manage that at home. Oh. You have to be at the hospital. But these are the steps to take so that the person will
there's
not
no
die.
snake bite you can manage at home. There's no snake bite. Any type you must find yourself in the
Yeah,
hospital. You just have to go to the hospital.
you have to go to the
After
hospital,
you've
right?
tried to tie the leg and and that you the next thing you is to take the person to the hospital. Because
Immediately, yeah.
yes, we know that sometimes the snake may not have passed some venom to the into um may not have passed some venom, but you never can tell. You never can tell. That's why you must take the person to the hospital.
Yes, Afolakemi Abosede sent 100 stars. I just saw it right now through my other device here. I'm just seeing it. 100 stars. Thank you very much. You have been sending stars. Thank you. So we appreciate you. And then we are rounding up right now. Chukuma says, thank you so much for your teaching and response. I really learned a lot tonight. In your next live, I will buy you stars. Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Israel, any final words? Any final words? Okay, how can I go for the training on CPR? You look for trainers depending on your location. I don't know where you are, but there are centers. If you're in Lagos, if you're in Abuja, Port Harcourt, there are centers that train. The Red Cross does that. So many centers, and when they train you, they give you certificates. So we have so many of them. Just do your research around your environment, and you get trained. It's not a very difficult process. So, Israel, any final words?
Okay. Yeah, I want to say, I want to continue thanking you guys for always being with us. I will try our best to always give you guys the best and of what we can. Remember, when I say remember, say we are not an island of knowledge. Yeah, there are some things we may not be able to give to you guys. However, when those kind of question comes and we are not able to give to you immediately, we want to come back next time to give you. Also, let's try and keep our mental health safe. We know how the country is now, the different policies that is really dealing with us, the fear and the currency issues that's really giving us tough time. And let's just try and keep ourselves. Our mental health is still very important. Let's try and run away from too much stress, try and rest, and try and eat good food. And also, if you don't have your PVC, please do have your PVC, so that we all can vote. And please vote wisely. Vote wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Israel. I'm going to talk about that vote, but somebody was asking me, how can I send you stuff? Follow me on this Facebook channel, on this Facebook page, Dr. Fredo Star Official. So there are two Facebook pages, Dr. Fredo Star, this one, and there's another one, Dr. Fredo Star Official. So follow me on the other one. And I want to say thank you again to every one of you that always come here, sharing this live, engaging. We appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much. On the part of the voting, it's not about voting wisely. Wisely is nobody. You know who to vote for. I'm obedient. I'm not gonna pretend and act that. It's my right to decide who I want to vote for. And anybody that comes to my page and begin to tell me rubbish, if you cannot respect my own opinion on who I want to vote for, jejely give me chance. Do you understand? Yeah, I have a right to decide who I want to vote for. So I'm an obedient. If you're not obedient, fine. But this is who I am, and this is not about voting wisely. Make your right decision so that you don't come tomorrow and start saying, "Doctor, things are hard." This country is a mess state, and we need to get it right. For those of us who are abroad, keep praying for Nigeria, and God bless you. Like I always say, good life now waiting.
Nonsense.
Good life now sense. Take care and have a wonderful night. Bye bye. Dr. Israel, thank you so much.